Hello, everybody. My name is Jason, and I was a foreman on the longest court case here in the state of Georgia, the YSL court case. And the funny part is, I'm not from Georgia. I'm originally from North Carolina, and I moved here about 6 years ago. For those who don't know, I work as a flight attendant with one of the major airlines in the country. I also referee two sports: men's football, women's flag football, and men's women's basketball. So my schedule's pretty tight mostly, and you can tell that I was pretty much upset for being on a court case for about a year, almost a year plus. But I want to give a disclaimer. A couple things. One, I empathize with the family of those individuals who lost their lives. I don't want you to think that I want to dismiss those. I don't know how it feels, but I hope justice will be served. And so I really do want you to know that as the jurors were doing this court case, we took in consideration of everything and what the state was presenting. And so I really do hope that justice will get served for you, to have closure with you and your family. Also, I anything we talk about is based on my perspective, my personal opinion. I know that some jurors do not want to go on camera, or once the court case was over, that was done. They were completely done. So um, everything we talk about is from my perspective and my personal opinion, and so that's where things will stand. But without any further ado, let's get right into it. I want you to know that a couple things. Number one person sunk this entire trial. One person. And we will talk about that through the episodes. And number two, had the individuals not taken that plea deal, it would have been a different outcome based on one person. So, regardless if the plea deal was taken and or the entire court case as it continued on with the last two, there could have been different outcomes in so many levels based on the jurors as a whole. The 12 individuals, including myself, were in that room. And we will talk more about it. We will get extensive about it. But for today, we're going to clear out the introduction area, and then we're going to get right to the different episodes, which I promise you, hopefully, I deliver a good insight. Any questions that you may have, just put them in the box, and we'll see can we answer them along the way. But how everything began is as I said before, I am not from Georgia, and I've avoided jury duty for a long time. And I remember coming home, working a 3-day trip, and checking my mailbox and got summoned for jury duty. You go to jury duty. I was not prepared. I've avoided being on any jury duty over the years because I traveled so much. And before I became a flight attendant, I worked in the political arena for a very long time. That's where people knew me from, from North Carolina and also from the DMV area, DC area. So I was a political fundraiser for a very long time. My job was to keep people in office. That was my job solely on. So I raised their money, and they use that money to do whatever they have to do to stay in either seek that political job, or they were already a member of Congress or governor or lieutenant governor or whatever. So that's what I did. So I avoided it because I moved around so much, and so this time here I am, living in Georgia. I get summoned. Did not come prepared to the court that day. That day, I think that we had probably about between 50 to 100 people in a room. And we're waiting around. I didn't bring any food. I brought a couple of snacks here and there, but as far as food to eat, I didn't have anything. And we were waiting around, people getting antsy, wondering why it's taking us so long. And so finally, we got dismissed to go for lunch. By the time we got back in, it was almost like Fort Knox took over. Now, I've been around a lot of security details for a very long time. I've been around, police officers and things like that, especially with the politician. But this time we were on lockdown. So we get back to the courthouse, and we went to a separate room, and then finally brought us back in. They filed us into rows where we had to sit. And we were all there, we're waiting, and the cameras are off to the side. They could not show our faces, but We got back in. My juror number was 56. Jeffrey Williams was sitting directly in front of me, along with the defense team and other defendants. And Judge Glanville comes in, and of course, he does the all rise. So we're all sitting there, and he comes in. He says that there is an indictment, and he explained everything. And he said that this indictment it had to have been about 5 hours long. It could be over exaggerating, but I know it was extremely long. So we took about a couple of breaks in between in order to kind of like, stay alert. After the indictment was read, and mind you, we started at 9:30 in the morning. We didn't get home until about, we didn't leave out of there until about 8:30 at night. Maybe later than that, though, but I know it was a long, long day. Before we left, Judge Glanville looked around. He says, I want everybody to understand this. He says, some of you all feel like that I'm not going to show back up. I'm not going to come back here. I want you to look around with these men and women around in this courtroom, inside this room. They will come find you, and I do not want to have that conversation with you in my courtroom. Well, needless to say, I'm assuming, which I later found out, that people did try to skip out, and you saw what you saw. But um, I took him very serious because I didn't. To me, he seemed a very, very serious guy, even though you didn't want to play around with him. So we had to come back a few days later or some time later, and we had a 100 questionnaire we had to fill out. That was going to take you about an hour. Ask you, have you ever been in trouble with the law? Have you ever been convicted? Has anybody in your family been convicted? What do you think about the police department? What do you think about police officers? Um, it asked you your political views. It asked you for your religion. I mean, it was so many questions. And I'm assuming that that was something that the defense team and also the state put together in order to make sure they got the right jurors for the trial. So it took me about 45 minutes. I put NA for some of these things because I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm gonna answer them out the answer, but some of these things are none of your business. So I'm thinking that I'm done. So some time passed by. Time passed by. We had to continue to call a number. I think it was every day or every week to call a number to see if your number was being called. So finally, number got called again, and I remember getting to the courthouse. It took 3 or 4 days before I was able to get into the courtroom. Because my understanding, we were supposed to get in, they'll ask you a couple of questions, and either they would tell you, hey, you've gone on to the next process, or you're dismissed. So by day 3 or so, I was getting antsy. I was getting there at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, and sitting around to almost like 5 o'clock in the evening time, just sitting around. I read through a book, I played games, word search. I was doing modules for to recertify myself as a flight attendant. I mean, those lists go on and on and on and on. So finally, I asked the guy. I said, "Hey, what's happening?" He said, "Well, I understand. Right now, they hit something a little bit, though. They're it's back and forth. They're arguing back and forth, and of course, you all in the middle of it. So unfortunately, you have to come back." And so I was literally the next person that called that day. This is probably the third day, and they said, "Hey, tomorrow, I promise you, you'll be able to get in." I had to go home, come right back the next day. So when I got to the courtroom, that's when I saw District Attorney Love and I saw D. Williams. And those are the two individuals who questioned me in that courtroom. And Judge Glanville said, come on in and you got to state your name. And there's a court reporter that's sitting in there and there's cameras looking right at you on a closed circuit TV. And the reason why I know that because if you look on the witnesses, on the side, there's a screen that has boxes and it shows the faces of their various people, but it's a closed circuit television within the courtroom. So District Attorney Love asked me questions about, my background, where I'm from. I went to an HBCU, went to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, grew up in North Carolina. I was interested in becoming an attorney because I used to do moot court, but I would have chosen the worst career path ever. So trust me. So one of the things I told her, the District Attorney Love, and I want you to keep this in mind the entire time we talk. I go by the facts. And I told her specifically, I go by the facts, not your emotions, but the facts. So we talked and we had she asked me questions. It lasted for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then D. Williams comes in and she asked me a softball question, which I thought was funny. But on one of the questionnaires, it asked about movies. And one thing I don't watch horror movies. That's not my thing. I can watch animated things. I can watch I'm like the person like to spread positivity, keep everything happy. I do some action packed stuff here and there, but horror movies is not my thing. So that lasted for about 2 minutes, and then that was it. Walked outside, sat down, and they brought me back in within 30 seconds. Judge Glanville looks at me, comes in. He said, he calls me by my last name. He said, or sorry, he calls me by Juror 56. Just let you know that we want you to come back. I know you didn't want to hear that, but we want you to come back, and the court will let you know when they need you to return back to the courthouse. Now, mind you, inside of me, I wanted to explode. I want to go off. I'm like, this is now my time. One thing about me, I hate wasting your time. I hate wasting my time. I hate people wasting. I mean, I just hate wasting time. I hate being late, and if I'm running late, I'll tell you what time I'll get there. And I hate for people to wait on me. So I go home, ticked off. I'm like, here we go. So time passed by. Time's passed by. I'm thinking that I'm in the clear. Do you not know on October the 30th, I was planning on working a 3 day trip, and thank God it was an international trip. I'm in the gym working out. My phone, I get an email, and also I get a phone call that says, "Hey, you are summoned to come back on November the 1st." And I'm sitting there in the gym, pissed. I'm like, this cannot be happening. So we get there the next day. We could not start until everybody was there, and I think we probably had about 50 people during that time. We're supposed to get in around 9 o'clock or 9:30. I don't think we started until around noon, or if not later. But I know it was late. Everybody had to get there. We had to sit around this, wait. So finally, we go into the courtroom. Everybody's finally there, and Jeffrey Williams is there, and along with the defense team, and the state side is there as well. So they are going through, and you can see their heads turning, they're pointing, and things like this. So we're sitting there looking. So they begin the process of calling. They said, if you hear your number called, you need to go to the jury box because you've been selected. Now, I told you, now they need to have a total of 18 with 6 alternates, just in case, which I'll tell you about, which we lost some on the way because of medical or job, their job pretty much, or they're like some. I think one person moved. So they're going through, they're calling the number, calling the number. And so it gets close to my number. So I'm thinking, okay, my heart's pounding by this time. I'm like, okay, they're going to skip over me. They called jury number 56. My head dropped. I grabbed my stuff, my belongings, and went to the jury box. Once everybody's numbers got called, the judge says, you all are the jurors for this, you've been selected for, this particular court case. Now, let me give you a little background about this. I love music, but I'm not a huge music fanatic when it comes down to artists because if the music sounds good, I'm going to like it. Now, my Pandora box is my Pandora music has a variety of genres and things, but my friends know when it comes down to music, I will probably fail at it, and because I'm horrible at naming artists, and so I didn't know who Jeffrey Williams was, Young Thug. I never knew who he was from even time I saw him. But I later found out that I'm like, oh, I know that song. I'm like, I heard a song before, and I'm like, oh my god, I did not know that he was actually in that song, and it actually sounded really good. I was like, I said, yeah, I remember the song. So that was like a disclaimer, like I had no idea who he was. So we, the judge read us our, now we're under oath, and all those, pageantries and everything is gone out the door. We go into the jury room, and that's when we were met with the sheriff's department and their head security. We talked to the court, the judge's assistant, and other individuals trying to get things together, and that's how it went. Now, I was never supposed to be the foreman, based on one individual wanted to be the foreman. Now, with having leadership roles over the years and being in position to make decisions, um, my ego was there because I was like, one thing, if we're gonna be in here, let me be the foreman. In my mind, I don't mind being the foreman. I want to be the foreman because I want to get us in and get us out. So, but originally, after we got a chance to meet all the other jurors, after I got a couple of days, we got learned each other's names and somewhat personality. One person said that they want to be the foreman, and in my mind, I'm like, crap. I said, this is what I want to do. But we all pretty much during that time, the consensus was, hey, well, since you want it, go ahead and take it. And that's what it was. And then I'll tell you why things change later on, from my perspective of why I became the foreman. But that is what took place at the very beginning. And during this entire time when we do these episodes, I had to get the introduction out the way so you kind of chance to kind of know who I am and how I think. We're going to touch bases on a lot of things, and hopefully it gives you a perspective from 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 how I was thinking and how we got to where we are. But hopefully you join me. We're going to talk more about some other things, and I believe that we're going to touch bases on the attorneys, their presentations, and talk about the witnesses, the my perspective looking at some of the jurors and their facial expressions and the dynamics in the room. Talk about the financial difficulties that started to happen and the reason why I started to press hard on getting us out or higher pay, because Fulton County, let's remember, pays you $25 a day when you have jury duty. It's $25 a day. And I think that's unfair. So we'll talk more about that. We'll talk about we'll include Judge Glanville and Judge Whitaker and their dynamics, which I respect both of them. They did what they could do during this court case. The plea deal, talk close about that. We also will talk about the closing arguments and what I like to call the war room / deliberation. That's going to be a big chunk because I want you to know how we got to where we are, or like that, how we got to where we, that we did during that time, and go from there. So, looking forward to have you join me. In the meantime, have a great day. Hopefully, make somebody smile, and we'll get right into it next episode.